Hello, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mr. Raven. All right, guys, I'm a little sick today, but I'm trying to get through all the builds, trying to get through all the updates, and with Horns of the Reach, many things have changed for my precious Nightblade. He used to wear Scathing Mage. I was happy with him, but no more. I had to hang up my Scathing Mage. It was almost sad. I was having major problems with just letting go, just saying goodbye to my Scathing Mage, but I had to do it. I had to say goodbye. Goodbye, Scathing Mage. Maybe one day we'll be together again. But today, there's a new build I'm having for the Nightblade, Magicka Nightblade, and this is the Relentless Assassin build. Alright, guys, so I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. So on Resto staff side, you're going to go ahead and see my max Magicka at 43,304. Magicka recovery is at 1,333, and maximum health is at 19.7, and my spell damage is at 21.32, and spell crit is at 53.2. To the left, you're going to go ahead and see I have all my points allocated into Magicka, and the Mundus we're running, yes, of course, is the Lover. Okay, switching over into dual side. You're going to go ahead and see my health has dropped because of the passive in my Nightblade abilities that increases my health, but that's fine. It's 19,167. Keep in mind, I will be doing some self-sustaining heals, so I'm actually comfortable with that. I used to like to keep 19.5. If you want to do that, you can glyph one more piece of gear with health. But max Magicka, once again, 44.6. Recovery, 1,366, and if I cough, I'm sorry, like I said, I'm sick. Spell damage, 2,333, and crit on this side is 55.2. 1 sec. Okay, now, going into the gear. So let's get into this. I kind of kept with what I was running with my Warden. Why? Because Magicka deals a crap load of Magicka damage, with one exception, a shitload of dots. So, I'm going to go ahead and use the Julianos. I'm going to go ahead and use War Maidens, but instead of Neuriniths, that's right, I'm going with the Valkynscorian. Why Valkynscorian? Because the Nightblade has a lot of dot damage. So, I want to take advantage of this. Alright, so let's go down piece by piece. Sword of Julianos, Nirnholm, glyphed with increase, right? I'm going to put Nirnholm in the main hand. It's going to go ahead and give me the max. It's going to increase my spell damage considerably. Do not put it in the offhand. I currently have the War Maiden's Decisive Sword. I'm looking for Infused Sword. My crit is fine, but I'm needing the Infused. Don't have it currently. Still looking. I have the Inferno Staff of Julianos with Nirnholm. Now, keep in mind, guys, that the flame damage on light attacks can apply the dot, which can proc the Valkynscorian, and I'm also a Dunmer, so I'm going to get that boost to flame damage. So I want to go ahead and capitalize on the Inferno Staff. Okay, so I'm going to also use the Valkynscorian hat, currently in Divine. I want the Infused, but, you know, Divine's fine for now. But it's glyphed Magicka. This is light, because keep in mind, my chest is heavy. My shoulders are medium to maintain my Undaunted Metal. And what Valkynscorian's going to go ahead and do, when I deal damage with a damage over time effect, I have an 8% chance to summon a meteor that deals 12,594 flame damage to the target and 5,598 flame damage to all other enemies within 5 meters. This can occur every 5 seconds. It doesn't proc as frequently as the DK, but it procs quite the same. If you were running like me, Mulak Kina, and you want to stay with Kina, by all means, go ahead. The reason I don't use Grothdar, why? Because I play a lot of range game. Grothdar, I have to be within close vicinities, and it's not always the best solution depending on mechanics. Valkynscorian, on the other hand, will always hit no matter the distance. So, I'm loving the Valkynscorian. Curse of Julianos, Infused, Ideal, Max Magicka. Shoulders, Valkynscorian, and once again, it's Medium, Divine, Ideal. Sash of Julianos, Divine, glyphed with health, Ideal. War Maiden's Gloves, Divine, Max Magicka. You can glyph this with health if you want a little bit more. That's fine. That's a preference call. Breachers of Julianos Infused, Ideal, Max Magicka, and Shoes of Julianos Divine, Max Magicka, Ideal. Now here's the trick. On War Maiden, you're going to need all 3 pieces of War Maiden's jewelry, right? So we're going to go ahead and put this one with Recovery. It needs to be glyphed up to 169, but I'm low on kudos doing all these upgrades. One is increased spell damage, and another one is Recovery. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and get into the skills. On the primary dual wield bar, we're going to have Degeneration. Degeneration is going to go ahead and apply a dot, which helps proc Falcon Scorian. It's also going to give me my major sorcery, also granting me my Empower from the Mages Guild, Might of the Guild, which also increases my next damaging effect by 20%. Also, I'm going to have Funnel Health as my spammable. It's also going to provide a self-heal. So I'm going to go ahead, lay my dots, hit my builder, and then use my Funnel Health for my spam. Also, I have my Crippling Grasp. So once again, keep in mind, magic damage, magic damage, magic damage. So this is why I'm using War Maidens. If you want to go with Moon Dancers, you can. I'm getting a better result with this. I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to stay with it. The War Maiden's giving me a nice boost to all my magic damage. I'm dealing all magic damage. It's consistent. It's without question. Slayer will scale when you get the friggin' Warhorn. Warhorn's not always being applied. This is way more consistent on my DPS. So I'm going to say it. And also keep in mind my finisher Impale. Once again, magic damage. 1 second. Now, the only thing that's not dealing magic damage on this is my Shooting Star. But it's going to go ahead and give me another dot effect, which can proc Falcon Scorian. So I'm really liking it. I'm going to stay with it. Plus, I get an additional boost in the Mage Guild passives. So when I go down to the Mage Guild, I'm going to go ahead and get the cost reduction. Right? And increase my max Magicka and Recovery. So I'm going to stay with it. Back bar. Okay, so here we go. I also have another builder with the Sap Essence. This is my AoE spam. It's going to go ahead and deal 5,601 magic damage. Also heals me and my allies and grants me major brutality, major sorcery. Unstable Wall of Fire. This can proc Falcon Scorian. Plus it can apply the Burning Status effect. So I really enjoy this. Same thing with Refreshing Path. It's going to give me a self-sustain. It's going to apply a dot. Okay, and then I'm going to use Siphoning Attacks to help maintain my Magicka recovery throughout my rotation as frequent as possible. Try to keep this up and keep in mind that other abilities have a chance to go ahead and restore your Magicka as well. So I'm enjoying that. And of course, my alternative ultimate is my Fiery Rage for ad control. And not to say that Shooting Star isn't, but if I have a lot of ads, I prefer to use the Fiery Rage. Single target, I prefer to use the Shooting Star. So let's go ahead and get into the champion points real quick. How I have this laid out. Elfborn's currently at 14.14. Keep in mind, I'm dealing a pretty consistent amount of crits over half the time, so I want to capitalize on Elfborn, but I'm going to need a few more points into Spell Erosion because I don't know what my other team is typically offering. Keep in mind, Sharpen took a hit, that's why I'm running the Lover, but even with the concentration passive and the Lover, I still need a slight amount of points put into Erosion, so I went 32. This is Elemental Expert is the base for my dots and my direct damage effects, so we went 1301. Going over to Staff Expert, I'm going to be weaving in and out of my rotation, so I put that at 6.6. All of my damaging effects have a direct effect with my spammable. Keep in mind, I'm using dots, but my finisher's direct. My Falcon Scorian has a direct damage effect. I want to put more at Master at Arm, so I'm going to 61 for 21.8, but I will be dealing dot damage, so I'm going to put 9.4 into Thaumaturge. Going over into the Steed, I have 40 points into Ironclad for 1602. Going down, I have Hardy at 1110. I am a vampire, so I'm going to go ahead, bump this up a little bit more to 14.07. Keep in mind, you'll have to pay attention to fire mechanics to avoid it as much as possible. Thick skin is at 10.22, and of course, since I am a vampire and my health recovery is low, I want quick recovery. I always put in quick recovery anyways, but I want 8.12. Now going into the tower, I have my break freeze reduced at 10.22. Tenacity is at 1407. Arcanist 1407. Health recovery, I always put some points in this, but I capitalize a little bit more because of the vampire passive, so 10.15, and I had 2 points left and I put into tumbling, and that is how the champion points are distributed. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick up a daily. Hopefully I can get a quick run in, give you guys a breakdown of what's going on. Once again, I'm on DPS. I can't really determine, you know, what my queue is going to look like. I'm really happy with this build. A lot. Like I said, you want to go trial set, you can. You can do that. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying anything. But, you know, I'm having really good results. If I'm dealing a lot of magic, think of it like a niche, right? So a lot of people are still rolling like Juliana's niche, right? Even in trials. Why are they running niche on the sorcerer? Why? Here becomes my question to you. Why are they doing it? Because it's yielding a shitload of damage towards their abilities. Same thing with the Nightblade with War Maiden. Simple. It's just that simple, right? It is. So, and also, I wanted to tell you guys, if you want to go with a Maelstrom staff, you can do that, right? The only thing you'll be giving up, you'll have to switch out the configuration, and you'd have to go with the War Maiden, like replace the one of these pieces with War Maiden, and then go to Juliana's weapons. You can do that. I don't like that configuration because then I'd be giving it up. So I don't use Maelstrom. But if you want to slot in a Maelstrom, you can, because light attacks do deal more damage. 1 second. But I just think, you know, it's personal preference call. I don't want to give up that Juliana static. But if you do go with Maelstrom, get the Nirnholm. Please do it. You're better off. Okay. Specifics. So we have Celine's. And what was the other one? Hold on. Like I said, I'm so sick. Bloodroot, fungal, 1. Psh, that's so easy. One second. Oh my gosh. So sick. Sucks. Sucks today, guys. Okay. See if I can pick up any ads while I'm playing around here. Drop the potion. So I'll always go ahead, throw this, get this down. Alright. There's the Valken. Trying to get this to crit real quick. 20, almost 21. Looks pretty nice. Okay. Yeah. Should be, as long as major breach is applied and everything, it should stay roughly about the same. So I'm not expecting too many changes on that. Now, if I did go with the Kina, I would actually get more out of my funnel health. But I'm sacrificing, you know, that extra spell damage, right? For the proc for Falcon Scorian. So essentially that's what I'm doing. Okay, 1 second. God, I'm so sick, guys. Sucks. $41K on my finisher. Looks good. Looks damn good. I'm happy with that. 41 fucking K on a finisher. Fucking best believe it. Almost 12 base. Now keep in mind, world mobs are way different than dungeons. All those penetrating factors have to be applied. If not, your DPS will drop. Tooltip is a good indication of what you can max for. Cannot exceed the difference. Alright? Can't be done. Base cannot exceed the difference. But yeah, like, honestly guys, I had to play with the Nightblade schematics a couple of different ways. I was thinking about going spinners. I was thinking about, like, doing this, doing that. And I was like, you know, with all the magic damage on the dual wield side, I'm getting a lot more effect from War Maiden on that back end. You know, keeping Juliana static. Running Nirnholm, getting over 500 and something spell damage right off the top. Applying almost an additional 400 from on the dual side. There's no proc. I'm used to using Scathing Mage as a proc. That's what I liked about Scathing Mage, because it applied to the back bar as well, right? Which was nice. It was great. I loved it. I loved that. I could have, you know, run the static and then go ahead and have my proc. Right? Beneficial. Same thing with Moon Dancers, you know, even on a 5. So even if you could go with Scathing Mage, like, you know, a static, and you could have done the Moon Dancers, which worked out perfect because everything kept just firing, and you'd have your, even with the downtime between Scathing Mage, worked out great because when we used it as a static, Refreshing Path was acting like a direct, right? That's what the change was. So they fixed it. So now it doesn't act like direct. It's only acting as a dot. So Scathing Mage became less effective. So for me, it was bittersweet. It was like, okay, yeah, they fixed it, but now Scathing Mage isn't as productive on my Nightblade because I'm dealing a lot more dot damage. Given that fact, and that I'm a Dunmer, I was like, well, why wouldn't I be using the Falcon Scorian to my benefit? Because I'm dealing dot damage, I'm dealing flame damage, I'm getting the bonus from the passive, so why wouldn't I capitalize on that? It's just, it's crazy not to. I definitely like to, I really like it. It's working out really good. And I can just spam up there when they're all together for the AoE spam. Works out really nice. 39 without with the CD applied to the weapon. So 41 with the increase, and then 39 when it drops off. If I get a Q this year, you know, I remember when I first started, 1 second. Somebody had said, I used to be able to get my meteor up to about 52k with War, Hornspout, Power Cure, everything procced up on my Nightblade. Someone was like, you know, you're just grossly trying to deal as much damage as possible, not taking in consideration, you know, practical sets of gear and shit. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to tell me it's a bad thing to deal too much damage. Do I got that right? Right? People were still using Sharpen, like even Magicka users, which was dumb, and I didn't. And I used the Julianus with the Nernholm. Like, a lot of my effects were really out damaging theirs, because they didn't understand exceeding penetration. Now they all talk about it. They all do it. So they're like, oh, you can exceed penetration. But I've told my viewers prior to that, that's why you kind of want to be a little finicky with the Sharpen with Magicka users. Not saying it was bad, but given all the facts that everything applies, you can exceed penetrating value. And when that happens, your DPS will suffer for it. So that was one of the biggest things for me in the beginning, like everybody thinking that Sharpen should apply. And I was like, you get penetrating value from concentration, where stamina users do not do that. You need more spell damage as a Magicka user, because the passives are different between medium and light armor. So you have to take those things into consideration, especially, you know, trying to configure how much penetration what you have available, what is going to be applied. You have to add these things up and take that into consideration. Ideally, if the tank uses Major Breach, if a Major Breach is applied, the Crusher and Chance applied by the tank, and then you have something effective like, you know, Minor Breach, and also Alkosh as a deduction from said target, then I don't need, you know, 14k friggin' penetration. I don't need that much. It's too much. So I'm better off around between 11 and 12 typically. So around, you know, but stamina user, I need a little bit more because I don't have it in my passive. So I have to take advantage of either maces or the Sharpen, or more into my piercing than spell erosion for Magicka. So I might put in double, you know, the penetration into piercing. So that was one of the things that I really always take a look at. You know, I take a look at the numbers that won't change, and then I can make those adjustments according to each build, right? It's taken into consideration, like axes. I like axes on a lot of my if I'm going to use a high-end procs on monster sets, sometimes on my stamina users. It's not necessarily going to be the most upfront productive DPS, but what it does is it offers the bleed status effect, which increases the chance for uptime for my monster sets. That is something I'm willing to sacrifice upfront direct to pick up the dot to increase the proc, thus increasing my damage output. So I have to take a look at different variables for each build. Not one thing is going to apply to every build. Two throw. I use two throw on Stamasork. It's more beneficial on my Stamsork than any other build. Why? Because I use Hurricane. I don't want my Camouflage Hunter. I don't want it on my Stamsork. So I have to have Major Savagery somehow. Two throw becomes more beneficial on the Stamsork. Why? Because it frees up a slot and allows me to put my Bound Armament and allows me to put on my Hurricane. That Bound Armament is increasing my damage, increasing my max stamina. So yes, I use two throw on Stamsork. Would I use two throw on any other Stam classes? Well, it depends. But for the Stamsork, it works out more efficiently. So I always tell people, if you think there's, you know, that BIS, if you're thinking BIS applies, you know, it's just, there's not one build applies to all classes. It's not gonna, it's not the way, it's ineffective that way. So that's what my major problem is most of the time. But yeah, I don't know, man, why I'm not, you know, it could be a minute. Let's see what my queue is. How long I've been waiting anyways. 12 minutes. I'll give it another like 3 or 4 minutes. If it doesn't queue, I'll have to call it. But nice build, really nice build. It is really strong, man. It's a really nice, strong build. It has a lot of going for it. Now, I'm not going to bash any trial set. I use trial sets. If you guys take a look at my builds, there's a lot of builds. That's nice shit. Almost 22k right there. Hell fucking A. But what does Mystic know? Mystic doesn't know shit. What do I know? What do I know, people? Now, I'll probably get around about 20.5, 21 with procs up and everything. Warhorn, I actually should get the major boost, especially with Spell Power Cure. So, wrong button. I loved it because in the beginning also, when I laid down my dots, like I knew the duration, so I would start going ahead and hitting that Empower and then getting that funnel health spam down. People were like, you're spamming one ability. I'm like, well, if you take a look underneath of my whatever, you see rolling ticks. Those are my dots. So, whatever. So, it's like, holy crap. Yeah. 1 second. So 39k when the enchantment drops off our execute. So that's not bad. 41 when it's up. Major breach applied to the mobs should kind of be close. It would be relatively close. Nope, wrong bar. Love it. Love this build. Love this fucking build. So they could take it the rule of thumb. Same thing with Ottomans. Same thing. Like I have Ottomans. It depends if I'm using it as a static set. If I'm using Ottomans as a static set and I'm dealing a shitload of physical damage, it's beneficial. If I'm going to go ahead and put it on a back bar for more single target damage output, there's other sets that are kind of depends on the scenario and the layout, what's performing and what isn't. So it's reasonable. It's within a reasonable measure, so I don't get too fixated on it. So it's like, okay, great, Ottomans is doing this, and I'm running this trial set. Should I be trying? I was thinking about initially like putting Alkosh and Ottomans together on my Stam Sword, but the loss of the Tooth Row was relevant for that build, and it was just like it was just a problem, dropping it off that much. So I was like, I'm not gonna go ahead and do it. It's ineffective in this build in that way. But yeah, so I don't know, guys. But yeah, I'm not getting a Q. We'll just go ahead and call it. I am a little sick today, but at least I got you the build. We discussed a couple things. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I want to thank you guys for watching, and once again and always, have a nice day.